Welcome into this week of Missouri Politics Daily Edition. I'm Scott Faughn, joined by Jeff Myers, representative out of Montgomery County, Warren County, all kinds of good places, kind of in between here in St. Louis, right?
Yes, yeah. We get painted with the St. Louis brush, but we're far enough out of there we don't get that taint.
I think you're the first one not to have the taint on you, right?
Exactly.
Like every district east of yours, not great, right?
I wouldn't say not great, just not as good.
Spoken like a man running for leadership. So you're running for floor leader of the Missouri House, right? Which is next General Assembly.
I have some interest in that.
It'd be an interesting race. What goes through your mind when you're kicking out a decision to run for something like that?
Well, for me, leadership it's not a noun, it's a verb, right? It's something you do. And it's just one of those things, lessons I've picked up over the years of either playing football, being a soldier, working for the patrol, having everybody work together as a team. And I believe that takes self-sacrifice, you stepping back. You could reach the next rung on the ladder, but if you help everybody else get there, then we're all better together. And I know that all sounds cliche, but it really is how I've lived my life. And my time here in the House, I've tried to make sure that do whatever I can to the new folks that have come in, try to get them developed and up to speed as quick as possible, because with term limits, I'm going to be gone and somebody else has to take over.
Somebody had to do that for you, right? And
it's important, I think, that we be able to carry that on, because I know when the day I retired on the Highway Patrol, they didn't miss me. They didn't miss a beat. And just moved right on.
It's not a negative on you. That's a positive on the patrol.
Yeah, and I when I signed off, I said that, I hope that I set the example for those to come after of the example that was set for me when I came.
Okay, so what's the rule is you got to go over 10 miles an hour over the speed limit to get a ticket. Is that the rule?
I think it's called a speed limit. It's very simple English.
Damn government. But really, did you ever write a ticket for like 6 over?
I've heard a phrase out there that 9 you're fine, 10 you're mine. But I've never said that.
Was that kind of your guiding philosophy when you were a trooper?
My guiding philosophy was, I would just pick and choose arbitrarily. If I saw a guy like you driving by in a hoopty like you drive, you're getting one. Yeah. But like a lady with a bunch of kids in the car, she gets a pass.
What if you have all the stickers that you've given to law enforcement stuff? Does that help at all?
Usually that's a sign that you're somebody who has nefarious intentions. Yeah. And please stop me. It's like
trying to you protest too much.
Back in the day, marijuana drug runners would put a lot of Tide and laundry soap in their car, so when you rolled down the window, it just smelled like, hey, somebody's trying to cover something up. And that's what all the like the Sheriff's Association, the Troopers Association, FOP, when I see all those on the back of your truck like you have, then I just know you're trying to hide something.
Damn it. Tim Garrison, you sold me a bill of goods. Got to get that damn thing off my license plate. All right, little interesting week last week. It kind of started off with the House and Senate fighting about what time they were going to meet and all that. Then it kind of felt like it went normally. The House wanted money for the ESAs. They wanted state money. Mm-hmm. This has been it's an interesting road to get here. ESA program was started. It was going to be all voluntary, right? Mm-hmm. Then last year you passed something to expand the charter school stuff to Boone County.
Senate bill
and threw some more money to your public schools.
We did. Then
the governor said, we're not going to do all that anymore. We're out. And then this year they wanted more. They wanted to take public money and fund the ESAs. To me, I don't think it was a bad deal, Kraft, because the House for 5 of the last 6 years has made our priority is to get as much money into private schools as we can. And they give up a lot of other budget. It's a negotiation. That is a big deal. It's a controversial. They got what they wanted, and they kind of let the Senate have a pretty free reign on all the other line items. No problem. It's what happens. Is it as important, though? Because in 27, Governor Keogh is going to come out with a rewrite of the foundation formula. My assumption is it's going to be a very large school choice bill. Are you bargaining the right way? Because no matter what you guys do this year and next year, it's all going to be different in 27, right?
Well, I don't know if you can explain the foundation formula.
No, God.
I cannot.
I kind of think yes, I can actually. So in this state, you had every single media market voted for Kehoe, right? Except for one. St. Louis voted for Eigel. Right now, the foundation formula currently takes money from the IGO voters and gives it to the Kehoe voters. And if you change that, I guess you'd be taking money from the Kehoe voters and giving it to the IGO voters, right?
The parts that I have heard about that is one, a lot of it's based off of 2004, 2005 numbers, but I do think it is very convoluted. The way it's been explained to me, there's times I think I get it, and other times I don't. But I do think, even talking with my school superintendents from my district, that was something they really wanted to be kind of worked on. But it's a large lift. When you talk about Senate Bill 727, I voted for it, and it against probably the will of a lot of retired school teachers, my mom's friends. But when we did that, we put a big number on the bottom line that we gave to public schools.
And then the governor came in January and said, not so much.
And so therefore, I'm glad that we put that money in there, because that was a commitment we as legislators made when we passed that bill. So I was glad that money was included, because I think that's important. We have a duty to educate our children. I want people that are out there in the workforce that can read, that can do math and be able to write. And that's very important. So we as a state have that responsibility. When it comes to private education, though, and ESAs, I think there's a lane for that as well, right? If you have a school that's not working for the needs of your child, then you as a parent should be able to afford to be able to send that kid to another school, because those that can do, right, those that have that money can send their kids there.
Which is kind of the whole point of the Republican Party, right?
But I represent a lot of people that aren't living in mansions, that aren't wealthy. We have a lot of trailers. We have a lot of single parents. And this provides them that opportunity to be able to send their kids to a private education, should they desire to do that.
I'll ask you the question I asked Rusty Black when he sat in that chair. It's a possibility that in 27, Rusty Black will be the Senate Appropriations Chairman. It's a possibility you'll be the House Majority Floor Leader. Can you say that in this very finite, whose time has come? School choice is an idea that's time has come. It may work, it may not, but it's what's going to happen in this state. Some version of that, I think, is here. Can you do that and not shaft the rural schools? Will they maintain their funding?
You know, those are all good questions. And
Rusty Black said, yes, they will, or it won't pass.
And I think there's a large commitment from our majority, because if you understand, our majority comes from the rural area. Our supermajority.
I understand that. I don't think your majority understands that.
Our supermajority comes from everybody when we throw the suburbs in there, but our
Do you
majority
ever
comes from
think
our rural.
sometimes when you look at the list of bills that you're a St. Louis alderman?
No, not at all.
How do you not, though? I mean,
Well, if you just want to talk about 495, right? The House bill that took over where state control is from a governor's appointed board, right? That was something that was long overdue. The progressives have shown that they could run a Tesla on autopilot into a brick wall, right? They, with their policies and the way they do things. And it was so important for us to be able to have that input into the city of St. Louis, because of the economic engine that they are, to be able to give our cops that peace of mind, knowing that if they go out and do their job and they're doing it correctly, that they won't be hung out to dry for politics.
okay, but let me ask you this. I agree with you. I mean, look, I think that the hard part for people that advocated the city of St. Louis' position on this, I'm a local control guy, but it's not as though they'd done such a great job in the 15 years they'd had control that people could say, well, how could we mess this up? It's going so well. Mm-hmm. They did not make the most of the opportunity they had. Now, whether they should have, shouldn't, whatever you do, that's for your voters and you decide. But nobody, even they, can't say we've done such great things. How could you take this away from us? But I'll ask the question I asked the governor. So we go to the ball game one night, and it gets out about 9:30, 10, right? Mm-hmm. We go to patios, and we have a beer. Maybe we stay an hour.
Were you with the governor at this time? Because you were well protected if you were. There were several troopers around.
I just asked you the question.
Oh, okay.
So, your wife, who I met, if she was out with Casey, and they were staying at the Magnolia Hotel, about 6-7 blocks up the street, would you let them walk there at night right now?
I would not.
I mean, as you can't make them, but you would, if they text us and said, hey, we're going to walk up to the hotel, I'd be like, no, we'll come get you. It was an Uber. Now let's ask the next group. You're a cop. If you and I were doing it, would you walk the 7 or 8 blocks, or would we get an Uber?
I would feel comfortable walking. just for the simple fact
But you're faster than me, so.
Exactly. I'd push you down and run. I've always spent my whole adult life has been with my head on a swivel. So
See, I'll be honest with you. Right now, I would get an Uber if it were me. I do think, though, on a nice night in the summer, you should feel comfortable walking those 7 or 8 blocks. I can leave downtown Kansas City and walk to the plaza, and I'm not worried. I feel safe. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm naive. I worry about Kehoe in the sense that, can you really solve this problem?
I don't think it is. It's an onion, right? And there's so many layers to it. And it's generational poverty. It's fatherless homes. It is cultural violence. It is, Steve Butts had a video out in his neighborhood where they were doing, street racing, doing
in St. Louis Hills.
And
Casey, did you hear that? There is crime in South St. Louis City. We've been documented by a cop. Actually
documented by Representative Butts, who lives down there. Yeah. And there needs to be something done to get that under control, but it is not it's not a monolith. It's not a simple, we can do this one thing. It's going to be a lot of different things, but getting public safety under control is the very first thing. If people don't feel safe in their community, then whatever you try, it just doesn't work.
Now, I break a lot more laws than I even know exist.
I've heard that about you.
You're a cop. Could you not just take a large amount of officers and put them downtown and just say, look, if you break a law downtown, we're going to prosecute you. No joke. This is going to be a fortress from, let's say, the Brewery to Washington Avenue. Is that possible?
Well, when you just look at the reality of the situation, the St. Louis Circuit Attorney's Office, their docket is saturated with felonies. So even if you just try to get into the misdemeanor side of it, they can't keep up with just the felony side of what's going on. These are your serious crimes. There's a lot of unsolved murders down there.
Would it behoove the state of Missouri to pay part of the bill to flood downtown on the night of a Cardinal game, right? You got, what's the season, about a fourth over, so you got about 60 nights. You're going to have a large group of people downtown. Would it not be worth part of the state budget to go in and we're going to flood downtown with cops and folks are going to feel safe?
Well, we've already done that with not so much the flood downtown, but we had details of troopers working down in the city, and they were doing really good work, pulling guns out of cars, arresting people that had warrants out for serious crimes, murder, rape,
easy, your SAPA folks ain't going to like that.
But all that work they did, because when we do traffic enforcement, we focus on the narrow. So I may stop you for speeding, or I might stop you for not having a license plate.
That's how you all do it, ain't it?
But then once I get in the car and I find out you're in there, and if you're a convicted felon with a gun, it's like, oh, hey, wait a minute. Now there's a whole another set of charges.
I knew, folks, don't trust the government.
All of that work got thrown in a trash can with Kim Gardner.
Yeah.
And Rudy Giuliani made New York one of the safest cities in the world at the time on broken windows policing. But a lot of people think that's heavy-handed. When you're, stop and frisk, when you see,
does the situation call for heavy-handed?
Standing on a corner.
Does this situation call for heavy-handed?
I think an increased police presence
if it's serious enough
with
to
aggressive
take it
enforcement could curb some of that. But I don't know if you could get enough people there to do it.
How do you make the argument, though, that if it's serious enough that the state of Missouri should take over a local jurisdiction's police department and run it from the state, or run it with local but approved by the state, how is it not the situation dire enough for some heavy-handed tactics like you're describing?
Well, actually, I think that the reins, so to speak, will be pulled off of the St. Louis City Metropolitan Police Department. Look, the Ferguson effect is real.
Yeah.
You could go out and do your job. That Eric Holder, when he came into town, when Michael Brown was shot, knew the facts of that case. He knew it was a legitimate shoot. Didn't say a word. Jay Nixon, I admire Jay as a governor. He's really good at the highway patrol. He knew, as a lawyer, as the past attorney general, that was a good shoot. But politics, and it was more beneficial for them to gin all that up. So what it taught our cops was, if I just sit back and I'll be reactive, then I won't get in trouble for being proactive.
Yeah. You
and
can't
so-
fault the cop for that.
So let's go back to the takeover of the city police department and why it's important we have a board there that's made up of just not the mayor of the city of St. Louis. Because what happens is you go out and I stop a friend of the mayor and they didn't like how I asked them for their driver's license. And they complain. The next thing you know, I'm not working in the district I was in, or I'm not even working for the boss I liked anymore. I'm riding a desk somewhere.
Hypothetically, what is the number to complain if you don't like how you're?
Well, I think if you get on Vervis Jones, nope, not anymore. That doesn't work.
Oh, deep cut.
So no, but it's.
Is it possible for this plan to work?
But the purpose of that bill is to let the cops that are out on the street know that they're not just at the political whim of one person, and
So-
that's what it was about.
This plan, because I know what do you as a police officer yourself, former officer, what's the chances this works, and how long does it take before people like myself feel safe walking those 6-8 blocks at night in St. Louis?
Man, I don't know because I where you come from in Butler County, you know,
Totally safe.
but you know, you Poplar Bluffians, you look
People
at
should be
that.
more worried about me than me about them in Poplar Bluff.
I agree.
That's not true in St. Louis. Totally different.
But everybody looks at the city of St. Louis with this taint, right? So I worked 6 years in North St. Louis County.
Feels dangerous.
And I had to work down in the city. And I even have, coming from a small town, still had that kind of a feel to it. And that just scares a lot of people in outstate Missouri. So it's always probably going to have that reputation.
And the murders don't help.
The murders do not help. But I do think once you start seeing things, these start to tick down, which I think when our police officers know that somebody else has their back will start to happen. Maybe that perception changes a little bit, but you know, for people, their perception is their reality.
Oh, first thing our sponsor, we're going to get to the question about House Bill 19. Got to thank my buddy Carl for the Stein. Love it. It's got the founders of Anheuser-Busch on there and the brewery we were just talking about. And I want to thank folks in the great Northwest at United Fiber for bringing us here. And then, look, if you're bringing your lovely wife to town and you're going to have an event and now you're going to stay overnight, you don't stay at the crappy place you bunk at, right? You put her up in a nice hotel, right?
I take her to the Courtyard, man.
Yeah.
It's the classiest
He knows
place in
what's up.
town.
He knows what's up. That's a solid relationship. You go taking women to the Baymont, that is where there's a lack of respect. That relationship's flying off the handle. You pay the extra because it's worth it. Put her up at the Courtyard, probably always goes well.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you know, maybe when the Baymont was the Coach Light Inn when I first came to Jefferson City, the Coach Light Inn looked like it was kind of classy, but not really. But it has nothing on the Courtyard.
It used to have a piano. The bar had a piano player in it, and that was the place. I mean, senators, everybody. That's where they would collect and listen to that piano music, and it's been a while.
That was that smoky room where all the deals got made.
Let's talk about a smoky room. I guess this room probably have a lot of smoke in it. You passed a budget. Felt like a pretty productive budget. I mean, you know, you did some trade-offs, some innovative things, but for the most part, taking care of the state's needs. Then you go through the process. This is a House Bill, House Bill 19. It had some constructions and renovation projects throughout the state in it. I'm looking at all the House recommendations in this. There's a bunch of governor and House priorities in this. Not a lot of Senate priorities. Then I see the conference goes through conference, moves on to the House, and then you just don't take it up. What is the House line on why they didn't take up House Bill 19?
Well, I will throw out this caveat to start with. One, I'm not on budget. Two, I did not pay attention to the committees. Had other stuff that I was working on at the time.
But I mean, they had to come up and say, okay, this is why we didn't do this. I mean, Dave Griffin is like a legit dude. I mean, you don't want to mess with Dave, and they mess with Dave.
Well,
Hard.
so
Did
me
they
being
piss you guys off?
I didn't have a dog in that fight. I didn't have any projects that I had money
Like, what was the
assigned
rationalization?
to. Dirk felt it was very important that we leave money on the bottom line of our budget to make sure we stayed in a place of good health budget-wise. Look, there were a lot of people that were hurt on that, both in the Senate and in the House, and those were really big projects. The things that I worry about going forward, since that blood's already been spilled, is where do we end up now? We still have some things, some good conservative
So the
pieces
House
of legislation
position is
we're
this was
working
too much
on.
money.
That is what, when we had our meeting afterwards, that's what the budget chair explained. Me being a chair, I try to vet the legislation that comes through my committee, just like the others. And if I have questions on things, I usually defer to the chair on that because they've spent the time in there. He's been there for, 6 years now? This is his 7th year dealing with the budget. I don't even have 8 minutes of doing that, let alone 8 years.
So you're on the floor. It's a little rude. By the time the bills come to the floor that Friday, you know you're voting for them and they're going to pass, right? I mean, they went through the process. This is what's going to happen. 6 o'clock deadline. It's a little bit. The time to make a change was not Friday. The time to change those bills would have been at least in committee earlier that week or prior or whatever. So it's a little bit like, okay, fine, green, right? You go through 19. It doesn't come up. Did they tell you, hey, beforehand, we're just not going to do 19?
We did not. We did 18 and 20, and then afterwards we had a caucus meeting where they explained the negotiation part of that.
But by the time you adjourned, right? So it was over. The budget process done. Did they tell folks? I mean, did they tell Hardy Billington? Did they tell Tara Peters? Did they tell? I mean, Dave Griffin just got smacked all kinds of hard. Did they tell the folks did they tell John Hukin? Because he's a freshman, right? Mm-hmm. Went through this whole process, did the right things, had budget house recommendations in this budget. Did they tell John Hukin, hey, we're going to screw you today?
Well, I know we as a caucus, when we talked about this prior, that we gave Dirk a lot of latitude on that. Again, going back to the fact he's been working these numbers from the get-go.
I noticed Dirk has his project. He had a project in here, but it wasn't in this one. It was in the operating budget, right?
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
I mean, Tara Peters got the short end of the stick, but he didn't, right?
Again, we're talking so many numbers and so many lines in that budget. How it all plays out, I don't know. That's not necessarily my bailiwick. I'll be quite honest.
Industrial Park in Park Hills, Becky Lobinger. So she just said it. They said there was a freshman, thinking this is how this works, thinking she's excited. Probably told her constituents, "We've made it in the House recommendation, the Senate one. We've come through here now. We're good." And then she's got to call them and say, "No, we got screwed."
Look, I understand the heartbreak that goes with that. When I was a trooper,
do you think people should have been told beforehand?
I don't know. I think,
what was the reason not to just tell people? Why wouldn't you tell John Hukin, we're screwing you, buddy? Sorry. Better luck next year.
Again, I think it was more of a timing thing. I did think that Dirk had mentioned the short amount of time from what the Senate gave us, and that they had to evaluate that became an issue. But I understand like the heartbreak that goes with that, right? Yeah. I was a state employee, and we had a pay raise that was long overdue for the patrol. And we got it through the House, we got it through the Senate, it made it all the way through, and then we go to the conference. And walked out of that room, and J.T. Russell, senator from Southwest Missouri.
Cleveland County's own.
And what had happened was, the Troopers Association had sponsored or had endorsed a gentleman when they ran against him and lost. And he stripped that pay raise out of there.
Everybody that ran against John T. Russell lost.
It took 3 years to get that back in there. So I understand the pain that comes with that. And
my last question, though, I get what you're saying about the pain, but to me, you had plenty of time that day, right? I mean, you all knew you were there. You might be there till 6, so you just had to tell your spouses, don't count on me Friday night. I'll be home sometime. I don't know when. You could have got on the floor and said, we're not going to do 19 for whatever, too much money, whatever the reason is, and gave them a chance to hold them and say, well, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to speak on House Bill 19. This does a lot for my district and my district and my district and my district. Is that not a better way to do that? Just take all the personality stuff out of it. Generally speaking, telling them after the fact seems a little, a little left-handed.
Again, on that side of it, we gave Dirk a lot of latitude. Again, that's his project. That's his area of expertise, and so therefore we let him make that decision. As a caucus, we supported him from the get-go when we started the budget process. When we went into this week,
I wonder if Rudy Veet's still in that supportive category.
I'm sure there's a lot of folks that again might have some heartburn one way or the other, but again that decision's been made, that blood's been spilled. We can't clean that up right now. What we can do is focus on the rest of this week.
Or you can spill more, which I think may what happened in the Senate come 2 o'clock.
I would hope not, but then
But
again,
you hope not,
I
I
understand. I understand there's some bruises on some people's egos, and that hurts.
Well, now wait a minute. How is it right to go through conference, take all these projects, all the folks from all around the state. I don't want to read them; it take too long. And then say, "No, we're not do that. Not tell anybody." Then just to say, "Well, you know what? We're not doing your bills, and I'm not going to do it secretly. I'm going to tell you right now." Done. How is that a bruised ego? That's the system you guys the House has decided you wanted to play by. So what's the difference so the Senate shouldn't play by those rules too?
Again, fair assessment.
If Prop A, if a fix for Prop A fails, and small businesses all over this state, a lot of people I think are going to point the finger at Dirk Deaton for poisoning the well. Because I think a compromise on that's bubbling up, right? It feels like there's going to be some Prop A compromise was en route. If that failed, I mean, the environment you're going to walk into later today is a much more toxic environment than you did Thursday evening when you left. I
think it'll feel a lot like the previous 2 years.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody thought that was a great way to do things.
I agree, but I think again that it still comes down to folks make decisions, and there are decisions to be made this week on how we go forward, and if that's how it plays out, that's how it plays out. But yeah. Again, those weren't conversations I was privy to, and for me, I will always try to advocate for my team. My team in this is the House Republicans, and so therefore, I think, there are a lot of good things I would like to see get done. Prop A being one of them. The Amendment 3 alternative to be able to be presented to the voters. What
does that look like? What in your opinion? Because you're not in a swing area, but on abortion rights, St. Charles County is a swing area, bordering right up on your district. What is something that you could feel good about reducing the number of abortions by 80, 90%? But you could live, but you might not love the exceptions. What is something that could get passed? What could pass? Take 30 miles east of your district. What could pass there?
I do think the messaging that the Amendment 3 groups did about rape and incest, that's the sweet spot for a lot of people. Yeah. A lot of Republican women voted for that because of that. But they're not for full-term abortions up just for mental health reasons. That's not where the electorate in the state of Missouri is. That's not where our suburbs are. And I think given that alternative, they would vote to roll those back and just make those exceptions. As a matter of fact, my suggestion would be go copy all the ads that the Amendment 3 folks had where they talked over and over again about incest and about rape, because that's less than like 1% of all abortions. I'm all about that.
It kind of felt like the House proposal was one that it kind of struck the balance you're talking about. The HGRU passed out of the House feels like it's kind of in that vein.
It is. And the funny part is it came up in caucus last year, and it was just something that we couldn't even fathom on presenting. It was hold the line, this won't pass, and that was our mistake. It was a tactical mistake, and we're bearing out the repercussions of that. But I do think that what we have now is too far for a majority of our citizens.
Do you think what you had before was too far for a majority of the citizens from the other direction? Obviously. I kind of do too. It did feel like the House produced something that, I really thought could be a good piece of public policy. I thought Brian Seitz did a great job. I mean, he had 50 pitches, and he didn't swing at any bad ones. He just kept his cool. He spent, 4 hours with people trying to bait him into losing his cool? And I thought the guy held together very well. I was very impressed with his ability to hold it together.
There was a lot of prayer behind that as well.
I can see that.
We have a Bible study that I go to every Tuesday morning, and that was one of the things that we were praying for, was for calm for him, for peace for him, to be able to make it through that, because we knew that was coming. And I thought he did an outstanding job.
I did too. I thought just the demeanor he kept, I thought that was a very a very professional job of legislating by Brian Seitz that day. Whether you think about a bill or whatever, it kind of felt like the Senate was going to end on that HJR.
Felt like that. Might already be done.
Yeah, I mean, but to me, there's like everything else, and there's abortion. It's always a little different. It's handled different. People talk about it in different terms. I always thought sometime Thursday they'd go to abortion, and that's where session would end, one way or the other. Mm-hmm. Is there been talk in your caucus about should we not wait to put something on the ballot? That way the other side doesn't know how to prepare as well and all that, or we should do it now and start working our plan to move forward?
I think it's get it done as quick as possible and start working that plan. You know, we're going to have to, as I explained to my central committee about IP reform, it's one thing to get a House or Senate joint resolution to the governor's desk, have him sign it. The people have to vote on it. And who campaigns for that? It's us, right? And there's going to be a lot of people with huge war chests that are going to be out against that, and that's going to take that grassroots effort. That's going to take me and folks that believe the same way I do out knocking doors, putting our own money into that to get it passed, to counteract that. But this is just one step in the process. It's not done. It's just to get it to the people. But I think I do think that this is something that will transcend the amount of money that's going to be spent against it.
I think you can pass this. Like if you would have went with a more strict version, you probably hold off, right? Want a shorter time frame in your campaign. But if I think what you pass out of the House is probably much more in line where the public is, even in the current law, and you can withstand a longer campaign. Because I think if you make your case, it can win.
And I think we need time to do that because if you don't have money, you need time, and I think that'll give time to do this.
Tell me about a couple freshmen that have kind of stood out in this first session.
I've really been impressed with, Cecily Williams is somebody that,
She's got a good karma. She's very upbeat and happy.
She is. And you need that presence every now and then. Yeah. Somebody with that kind of.
It makes the day go by better if you're around somebody like that, you know?
Exactly. Melissa Schmidt has been another one that's really, really impressed me. But she'd spent a lot of time up here before advocating for issues, so she had an understanding going in. And, I like Vernetti a lot.
Check this out. He makes this. This is Italian dressing, and this is his spaghetti base. Yeah, we haven't used it because Casey said you had to refrigerate this. I didn't know that, so they've been sitting on my desk since he gave them to me. But who'd have thought? Makes his own.
Maybe I should get some of my product placement up here. Can I just set some garage door sections up back here so we can put up a little display section for J4 door?
Could we compromise on a sign? We could even do the garage door sign. That's fine too. I mean,
I think we could compromise on.
Yeah, I think you have the cool signs. You have your trooper hat hanging off the J, right?
I did.
That is cool. I recognized that before I ever met you. I knew from driving to St. Louis, seeing them on the fence rows, that you'd have that. That trooper hat sticks out.
Well, all my cattle friends have their cowboy hats on all their stuff, and my hat just happened to be a flat campaign hat. So
So just to recap, 9 miles an hour, you're probably okay. All the people hitting you up from the police associations to ask you to give them money to get a sticker for that's all a waste of time. That won't help you at all. Tough Titty said the kid to everybody that lost projects in the House budget. And he's optimistic we don't have a total shutdown, but eye for an eye, right?
Yeah. What the other part, that new book of the Bible, that new half, where it says, love your neighbor, do unto others as you'd have done unto you.
Yeah, but Tara Peters wasn't done under them as the Pineville Park was done. Correct.
Again, I would say that there's some really good things out there. I'd hate to see those suffer because of one little thing.
Give me something that's not talked about. You think it'd be a good change to Missouri's laws that would impact people that many folks that wouldn't even know you, wouldn't know me, but just living their life. What's something to be a good thing to come out of this week?
For me, quite frankly, one of the things I've been very passionate about and something that touches every district in this state deals with trafficking. There's a lot of the amount of that is going on even in districts where you came from, where there's somebody selling their kid for drugs.
It's hard for people to get their head around that.
There's somebody selling their kid for rent. You know, and it's just this insatiable appetite of, you know, pedophilia that we have.
God, that is so hard to get your head around.
It's so heinous, and the thing is, I don't think people understand the scope and the scale of this.
I talked to enough cops. I could see a place like Warrenton, right there on the they say the interstates are like magnets for this stuff. But even, you know, a place off the beaten path a little bit. We've talked about Pineville Day. We've talked Rollins on the interstate, Poplar Bluff, even places like that.
Even places like that.
What can you
even
do
places
about
like, you know, you get up into your smaller counties that aren't on an interstate. You know, when you think about it, it's force, fraud, or coercion, and you're benefiting from the labor of somebody that is sex in nature on the sex trafficking side. That, yeah, they're literally, there are parents, singular, that are trafficking their kids so they can, you know, get drugs. You know, the whacked out mom or dad who has their child there. How do you find out to stop that? One, I think a lot of it's the making people aware of it.
See, I was in Las Vegas over Easter weekend. Every time you shut an elevator door, every time you shut a bathroom stall, there's pictures, and it's also bilingual, which I'm sure in Las Vegas is a little more important. They had awareness stuff about that, almost, I don't want to say oppressively, but I mean, they were very aggressive in promoting they had those little camera things, you did little weird graphics, right? It was like a Rorschach test. QR code, yeah. I mean, they were very aggressive in promoting what to do if you see something, say something, all those things.
Well, and if you just look at on the prostitution side, very rarely is that somebody who that's their chosen profession. That's what they went out to do. You might see older prostitutes, but that's because they've been used up by their pimp and put out, and that's all they know. That's their trade. That's all they have.
Not everybody has a Richard Gere to come rescue them.
You know, and you have movies like that, like Pretty Woman, where she's just you know, working her way through college. That's not it. It's the 16-year-old being taken to a hotel by a 32-year-old woman. So the 32-year-old doesn't have to work as much anymore. So she trains the new people coming in, and it's just when you look at, you know, most of these people have a pimp. There's usually a man on. It's overwhelmingly female on the prostitution side, and it's a male that's benefiting from that. Whether it's a boyfriend who's having the girlfriend do that so he doesn't have to work and that's their source of income, or it's the pimp who's running 4, 5, 10 girls.
What's your legislation? What's it called? What do you?
With the piece that's moving the most is sponsored by Representative Ed Lewis. It was 1464. I filed one. It was 224, and I had some caveats in there for training for people that come in contact with these professions on their continuing education side, not adding to, but in lieu of some others, but just making it awareness and skills based, because what happens is, you know, your juvenile officers, your social workers, EMTs, paramedics, cops, prosecutors, they all come in contact with these folks, and having an understanding of the problem and then having the skills to know how to address it is very important.
I guess there is things you could train people to look for, right?
Exactly.
Maybe you could even train regular people to look for certain things, right?
And there are groups out there that do that. There's, you know, it's like the sexy topic in a way, but it's something that I think is very important. Just because if you can save one person from having to suffer through all that's worth it.
Okay, that's a way better answer than I would have ever thought. That's legit. That's I mean, I thought you were going to say something about like mechanical engineering or something. I was like, well, okay, that's legit, man. Because I don't think I think people sit on Law & Order SVU, and you could tell me it happened in St. Louis, some big city, and I'd be like, sure. Yep. I don't think people think about it happening in Fredericktown.
I've got a truck stop out by where I live, and I see girls walking down the road to go out and work every day.
Man, I mean, I hate to
think of all the truck stops that are here in Missouri, just Missouri alone.
Yeah,
and these are local people. They're not drug in from Mexico, but there's 300,000 kids in this country right now that aren't accounted for. That were brought here specifically.
You know, there's been reports, different numbers, that there's a certain amount of kids in the foster system that are accounted for.
There are.
Do you worry that that's where they've ended up?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The most vulnerable people are your runaways.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Somebody, you know, brings them in, and it's the coercion part of it. Hey, I got a place for you to stay. I just need you to do this one little thing for me.
So you're gonna have to go talk to Betsy Faughn to get that bill brought up in the Senate.
Apparently, that's
I hear the line's already
that's the
forming
rule.
outside Representative Fogel's office to see if she can talk to the senators about.
So Representative Faughn, if you're watching this, pretty please. I think this is very important. I think you care about the same issue as I do.
I want to thank you for the time, man. Seriously, hope you're not too far down the road. Maybe you can come back here this summer and we can talk a little bit more about how things actually end up this week. Give me the last question. Prediction. I think today's probably shot, but that doesn't mean the week is shot. Do you think the gears unlock a little and things start moving along?
I would hope in some aspects some cooler heads would prevail.
If the Senate just takes this, Cindy O'Loughlin's a lame duck today, Lincoln Huck's a lame duck after today, but maybe tomorrow the gears start to loosen and...
I think there are people that care about some of these things that are still on the table.
Hey, and Dirk Deaton,
I
don't know if he drinks a beer, but he really, Wassinger should buy him dinner. Because Thursday, he was the one everybody was shooting at. That's all changed. If nothing else, he the lieutenant, I don't know what favor a lieutenant governor could do you, but, he definitely is owed one by Wassinger, right?
I can imagine your insight on that.
Man, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it. We will be back tomorrow. I'm not sure who we're going to have. Wednesday, we're going to have the, what should we call it? The official House liaison to the Missouri Senate, Betsy Faughn, and state Senate candidate. Will be here Wednesday morning sometime. We'll have some promotions up. Check our social media. We'll see you back here tomorrow for the TWMP Daily.